Hello, everyone. Welcome to our social networks. My name is Martin Prescott. I'm a director on the board of a company called EthicStream, and I have as guest today Mr. Josh Soloway, the CEO of the company. So, hello, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Martin.
So, what's going on? New company called EthicStream, obviously in the carbon offset market. What is the purpose? Where are we going with this?
Well, I guess I could talk about where it started, which you know well, but I'll talk for the benefit of the audience.
Sure, good idea.
You know, as you know, we've been, as a team, developing the Carbon Ethic project, the first project and a series of other projects that we've got in the pipeline, and talking to many financing sources and different types of investors. And of course, you have the various companies that have formed as streaming companies focused on the carbon market, right? And as you well recall, over a year ago, we were talking about this, and should we chat with some of these as potential partners in our projects? And then as we got talking, certainly Brent and I and yourself, it became pretty obvious that, well, rather than do a deal with one of these streaming companies at that stage, perhaps we should start our own. We have such a high quality, sizable project that it just made good sense, particularly given that so many of the streaming companies raised a lot of money and have spent a lot of that money hunting around for projects and only recently have started to find them. They're still searching, many of them. We thought, well, we believe in the streaming model. It provides efficient capital to project developers like Carbon Ethic. It's not dilutive capital for the equity holders. It's not debt. It's good, clean, efficient capital for them. But we thought, why not come to the market, to the investment market with our own supply in hand and raise the capital into that streaming company, and then go and fund the project through this sort of efficient capital mechanism. So with that, we then started thinking about, well, what about the other side of the trade? Who are the customers, right? What about the people that we want to sell the credits to? It's great to acquire the credits. Obviously, you then have to trade them or sell them. So, and then we thought, as you know, in the carbon ethic world, we're always thinking about how can we drive forward this industry that we really believe in, and that's vital to our planet and to biodiversity and so many other key concerns in the environment. And we believe that streaming is a key piece of that. But we thought about the other side of that trade and who's buying these credits. Well, it's the large, who needs them? It's the large companies, the large emitters, right? And then you think of the plight of these sustainability officers at these companies, who, many of whom, last week were like a marketing manager or a finance guy in the accounting department, but they don't really, and they don't really know about carbon, right? And we thought, well, that's a tough position to be in, particularly when you see the kinds of articles coming out against the carbon industry, the offsetting industry, where they're saying, like this Guardian article, exactly saying these credits are bogus, they're not valid, most of them don't sequester the carbon they claim to. Well, if you're a sustainability officer, right, and if it says, whether you're looking at the European Commission report in 2016 that said 85% of these credits won't live up to their sequestration claims, or whether you're looking at this Guardian article that's saying as high as 90%, and you're sitting there tasked with your career on the line, your job is to help offset, help achieve net zero for your company. But you either have to go and buy a credit and hope it is in the 10% of quality credits that you can trust, or not buy anything because you're scared to death of making the wrong decision. And so we thought, well, what could we do at EthicStream to help bring a real solution to these sustainability officers? Well, number one is knowledge. right? So developing a really robust knowledge center for them, really good resources to help these folks get up to speed and stay up to speed on the carbon market and how to qualify a project, how to qualify a credit. Number two is getting a good, clear picture of their exposure in terms of their own emissions. And then from there, we have these incredible advisors and experts, as you know, on our team, who have everything from folks who helped, from Mr. Valentini, who helped to who led the IPCC report on carbon sequestration and climate that won the Nobel Prize, to folks like Claude Villeneuve, who helped to write the standards for carbon credit qualification and developed numerous projects. And we just have this incredible team. And so we have these folks who can come in and help these sustainability officers craft a plan, implement a plan if they already have one or after we develop one. And then we can actually take them all the way through the process to buying credits. We actually have credits in hand, and we can go out and source quality credits because we have carbon ethic technology to help us look at and qualify projects, whether it's carbon ethic projects or another project, right, in another jurisdiction or what have you. So that we thought we could provide an end-to-end solution, and then we could even help them to tell the story, right? And then always with the carbon ethic dashboard, right, to say, hey, here's what I bought. Here's the tree, here are the trees, here's all the key data, here's the monitoring, here's exactly how much carbon was sequestered, so that if you're a CEO or a chief sustainability officer, a CFO who is talking about your commitment to sustainability, you can hold that up, point to it, and say, this is our commitment to sustainability. This is what we've done. This is what we bought. We care about quality, right? And we did the work. And I think providing that end-to-end solution is needed, and we're really excited to have the opportunity to bring that to the market, especially with a quality supply of carbon ethic credits on hand to start with. It's a really big head start.
I think this is one of the key feature, right? Not only Carbonetic as a producer have 4.2 million hectares of forest to work on in partnership with our indigenous partners there in Canada, but at the end of the day, we've been pretty good of identifying, 2 years plus working together, Josh, that transparency and integrity would become a requirement, because we already digged ourselves in, many years ago to identify that a lot of these offsets were not legitimate. And at one point it would be public, that the people would know about it. And this is exactly what the Guardian article highlighted last week. And by the way, I shared also another article who spread in Quebec this week for the same reasons. And you're talking about offsets which cannot deliver actually. So it's not only about delivering offsets, it's about delivering, the most transparent, reliable offset that you can find. And this is why I'm very excited, to be part of Carbonetic. On the other hand, I want to hear a comment with you with another bomb that has been out, and I shared it with you 2 days ago, which is absolutely crazy. Can you imagine how even board of directors can be sued by investors who doesn't believe that the companies, are quick enough to react to climate change? And this is exactly what's going on in London at the time speaking. What do you say on that? As a lawyer, by the way, you're a lawyer. So what do you think when you see these kind of things happening, Shell board of directors being sued?
Well, I think that it's only the beginning. I mean, this is going to keep happening, right? This isn't a trend that's just going to go away, right? As these things happen, it's going to build precedent, right? And it's going to build case law, right? So these directors are going to increasingly be concerned about their own personal exposure. So if you're a management team, if you're a CEO, a CFO, and you're reporting to the board, you can bet that your directors are going to be asking you about what you're doing with a greater, it's not just going to be a check the box anymore. When you have directors really being held accountable, regardless of whether this ends up being this case ends up being decided in favor of the plaintiffs, right? It still subjects the directors to a lot of scrutiny. And they're still sitting there thinking, well, at some point, one of these cases is going to fall the other way. And I think that's a really disconcerting thought for a lot of directors. I think many of them, sure, they care about it, but how much, all the things you have to deal with as a director, right? Especially, the public company or what have you. The things that affect you personally are going to be the things that you're going to pay a lot of attention to, right? Your own personal liability. So the days of checking the box and frankly greenwashing are drawing to a close. I think that's really what this means. There's real accountability, not just from governments, though that's certainly increasing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
if you look at the SEC requirements that they're putting forth, or the proposed requirements, right, disclosures rules, where this is going to really raise the bar for what has to be disclosed. And obviously that's going to drive more lawsuits like what you're seeing here, right? That's the point. That's the idea, which means that carbon accounting better get better. Transparency has to be improved. And cases are going to be decided on the basis of the accuracy of the information, and there will be plenty of cases of that go against these directors and these companies because the information that they relied upon to make certain decisions or that they publicized was not up to snuff.
The other thing is that, as you said, governments are involved all around the world, right? Especially in the Western countries, and they're pushing actually that agenda, and it's here to stay. That was an article which has been shown, in October 2021, and now we know for a fact that it's been passed in Europe, where all of other companies outside of the European zone wants actually to sell their product and services to Europe countries will have to pay a carbon tax. And as you know, we have partners, in Europe, some in Tunisia and other areas. And right now they're a bit on panic because they don't know what to do, but they know that somewhere in 2024, they have to comply to the fact that a tax will be charged on the products that they want to sell. And now there's a lot of demand for consulting services and such because they don't know what to do, and they're looking actually for experts to make it happen to them, right?
Absolutely.
So Europe is no different than the carbon tax that we're having in Canada. And by the way, I know you're aware, it's more for our viewers, but the carbon tax in Canada will increase from $50 a ton of pollution to $65 a ton of pollution per April 1st. And the carbon tax isn't also included straight at the pump when the people put, gas or diesel in their cars. So you have to find a solution yourself, to fight actually these climate changes that the government wants to push. And this is just the way it is. So it's in Canada. No brainer, in your opinion. It's coming. Well, I think the SEC, right? Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but the SEC has been very clear about the American company too, right?
Absolutely. Now, that's not necessarily a tax yet.
Yeah.
Right. It certainly sets the stage. Once you start disclosing, it's pretty unlikely that the SEC or the authorities rather are going to say, okay, thank you for disclosing. That'll be all for now, right? That's not going to happen. So, right, it'll be, okay, now we see how much you're emitting. And number one, we don't think you're accurately accounting for this. So we need a better carbon accounting. So that's for one. Number two is, holy smokes, look at how much these emissions are and what are you doing about it? That's the next step, obviously. And the fact is, institutional investors care about this too, and they're pushing for change. So it's like the walls are closing in, right, on these management teams. And look, these are people too. These aren't just nefarious criminal actors out there trying to, sort of thumb their nose at the environment and destroy it. They're not. I don't think that's who we're talking about. I just think there are a lot of demands on a CEO or an executive team of any company of size, and it's very easy to like push this off, even with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
And so everyone's, now you have all these stakeholders holding their feet to the fire and elevating this issue. And I think that's going to be that's going to result in some real change, which is probably a good thing. Obviously, is a good thing to a large extent. Going back to the Guardian article, it really pushes toward a demand for quality and clarity, and I think and transparency, which we've been talking about for years, right? This is why we started Carbon Ethic. This is why we started EthicStream. This is why we built the technology we've been building. And what I'm really proud of the team, I must say, and especially the tech folks and the work that Brent and the tech team have done and the forestry team is, with all the money raised in Carbotenics, in Carbon Connect Enterprise Services, and Carbon Ethic and what have you, so many startups and early stage companies, the second they raise $1, they go out and put out a press release, right? And buy ping pong tables and everything else, right? Our team just put down their heads and did the work, started creating the tech with incredible attention to detail, started advancing the project, right? Really got to work with our indigenous partners, making sure that we had that we were advancing those agreements and those arrangements, which, our advisors who advise major companies on indigenous projects were astounded by the speed with which we were able to get those agreements done. Several of them commented on that. And in fact, one of them said he's never seen it happen that fast with an indigenous group. And so that's really cool. It shows how much the indigenous partners are on board with us and the quality of our relationship. But even with that, we haven't put out press releases announcing it. And those will certainly come. But I love the commitment to doing the work and delivering the value. And that's what we hope to do at EthicStream too. I want to carry that ethos over, right? We want to do the work. Quality, transparency, accountability, all of that rolls up into trust, so that any of our clients on the corporate side, when they're sitting there worried about this litigation trend, when they're worried about the oncoming disclosure requirements, when they're worried about carbon taxes and carbon accounting, they want to go to a company, a group that they can trust. And the only way you can trust anybody is if they have a commitment to quality and a commitment to their craft and a commitment to transparency. That's the only way. And I think we've proven that by operating in this stealth mode well beyond when almost any company I'm aware of in this space has stayed stealth.
2 years in the making without a sound. And so talking about value, we want also to address speculators and investors, right? And now we know for a fact that carbon markets is a new asset class in such ways. I think it's going to be ruled as a commodities. Nobody knows yet exactly how to define it. But how many times in a lifetime that we have a new class of investments open actually to individuals and companies? I don't remember, like we had the tech bubble back in 2000. And of course we saw, like a lot of fraudsters and companies falling, and the good ones stayed, as we all know them by now, right? 23 years later, Facebook, Google, Amazon, we know these guys. And back in 2009, we had the blockchain space with Bitcoin, which was a real opportunity for the people who jump on board first. And of course, now there's still challenges, right? Because there's a lot of fraud. There's a lack of regulations in such ways. But my point being, Josh, that we're facing actually a new class of potential investment. And I don't know about you, but in my opinion, just to be diversified, it would be insane actually not to put a touch of investment somewhere new that could bring a very high potential returns just because it's a very early stage market, right? What do you think about that?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and I talk a lot about, because I was in Silicon Valley in '99 and 2000. Yeah, makes me feel quite old these days. Especially, I've worked with a lot of tech companies in recent years, and I feel like, how can I be the oldest guy in the room at 46? But I guess I am, and by a long shot. In any event, telling these, this grizzled old guy telling them tales of the old days of Silicon Valley in '99, 2000, which doesn't seem that long ago to me. In any event. I remember I was visiting one of my brothers was a banker with Goldman Sachs in New York, and I was visiting him, and I remember waiting for him at a bar in the finance sort of district and talking to some guy. All these guys, when they heard I was in the internet, in the .com world back then, they were just like all taking shots at me. This is all a bubble. It's all junk. It's terrible. It's never going to be worth anything. And as I said to them then, and I certainly wasn't wise, and I won't claim any wisdom in my 20s, but I'll say that it's a technology. Yes, are there fraudsters? Are there plenty of people who are slapping a .com on the back of anything and saying and making millions of dollars? Sure, but there's also real technology that was developed. I mean, we're using it right now. Had that not happened, we wouldn't be having this conversation this way, right? Our listeners and viewers wouldn't be able to consume this content the way that we. So there's obviously value there, and I think that's a really useful thing to remember when looking at the whole blockchain space. Who could doubt that technology is immensely valuable? There's just no way to doubt it. Of course it is, and of course it's here for the long term. And we all know the issues, in whether it's in the financial community, whether it's in emerging sort of markets like the carbon market, whether it's in older markets like oil and gas trading and what have you. Of course, these solutions make sense. And so the carbon market, what I think is interesting and even more unique in a way than that is, yes, it will use the best of these technologies, and that's why we spend time on Carbotanics, and that's why the expertise that you bring in, Martin, is so invaluable, and the network you bring in the blockchain space, because that technology is such an obvious fit for the carbon market, right? In terms of all the digitization of these assets. But what's, I think, so compelling about the commodity market, about the carbon market in general right now, and why it's an even bigger opportunity than even those were, is that it's really a new commodity that we're seeing. And that doesn't come along very often.
Exactly.
Like that, you don't see often in a lifetime. Imagine, I mean, it's really like if you could have invested in gold before people knew it was valuable, right? I mean, it's really a new commodity. And I think that's tremendously exciting.
And it brings real benefits when there's transparency and integrity. Like you look at the active forest management that these offsets will provide, social benefits, to the beneficiary forest owners. I mean, there's a lot of things that needs to be done. And at the end of the day, carbon offsets are a value which is used as currency to be able to deliver a good service, a good product, and that's what it is. And I think this is what it's key that the people understand also. That said, Josh, so I'll put back, if you don't mind, the website.
Sure.
I suggest, all of our viewers who have interest, not only to support and invest with us, but at the end of the day, I highly suggest our viewers today to take a look at the team tab, which is on the top there. And it will allow actually the people to take a look at who's our advisors. They'll see the professionalism of the people which has been chosen to be part of this, and who wants to support actually everything of what we are doing internationally. So I'm very excited about that. Do you want to say a last word before we end the interview today, Josh?
Well, no, I mean, it's really a tremendous opportunity to be able to lead this part of our business, to lead this business into the future and serve this tremendous growing need among both project developers with real integrity who want to develop meaningful projects with transparency and quality, and to bring those folks together with the people who want to really bring forth transparency and accountability on the corporate side, right, into their businesses. So providing a trusted solution, it's a huge opportunity for us. It's an honor to be able to do it. And from a financial perspective, to be a participant in this emerging commodity market, and start on third base to some extent with a quality supply of the best carbon credits available. It doesn't get much better.
Thanks again for your time, Josh. Really appreciated. Stay tuned, everyone, for other different partners and operators and all the people who contribute to our already successful companies. We will be part of these Meet the Team little videos that we will put on our social networks. So you'll have the chance to have personal takes coming from everyone which is on board our team. This is one of my goals in the next few weeks. I want to get more interviews on social network for you to know exactly who's the people behind that beautiful story of ours. So Josh, thanks again. Have a great weekend, and see you on Tuesday for the next call with it with the executive.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Absolutely.
very
We'll keep
much.
doing it. Thank you.
See you guys. Thanks again.